Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3855. Today's date is February 1st, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 8:31 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. All right, the question is, what kind of legacy do I want this channel to leave behind? Oh, okay, that's a really good question. All right, yeah. First of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? This is YouTube realization question. I am asking this question to myself is because of that I just wanted to know that am I that particular person? Am I that particular person consider myself as a YouTuber? Because it's just like that na ki when you are consider yourself YouTuber, you have to understand that ki what is actually being YouTube, what is actually am I that particular person? Am I that content creator? Am I that person or not? Or things like that. Asking this realization question, I would understand myself or I would realize myself that am I worthy enough to consider myself as a YouTuber or not? So these are kind of like simply question are associated with that thing. Okay. Disclaimer. Why am I kind of like giving the disclaimer? I don't know, but sometime I kind of like wanted to talk about things. Okay. The stuff that I'm trying to talking. Okay, sorry. Disclaimer. The information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right or is not exactly wrong either. It's a raw, it's unfiltered. It's just my opinion. So do not believe in any kind of like I don't know. It doesn't feel like right to kind of like give the disclaimer because it's just my point of perspective. It's my channel. It's my legacy. So why would I supposed to give the disclaimer, right? If a disclaimer is associated with the thing that na ki when you are kind of like try to talk about such thing which is kind of like somebody relate with so many people. Okay, yeah. Like this is question associated with the kind of like assembly, me, my channel. I wanted to understand myself. So even if I'm kind of like a wrong, I would be wrong, na? Okay, right. Probably I'm not really sure about that. Whatever. So what kind of like a legacy that you wanna leave behind? Okay, what is actually legacy? Okay, let's just understand first. Now legacy means like that ki example is this thing you love your girlfriend or maybe boyfriend. Okay, yeah. Now because of some sort of reason your boyfriend or slash girlfriend went to another town. Oh, for a kind of like for a college or things and that. Okay, yeah. Now basically you have kind of like a relationship for almost like a 5-6 year, and now she is a kind of like a very far away. You kind of like started missing that particular person. Okay, yeah. So when you started that missing that particular person, it kind of like feels like something missing. Okay, something missing. No, it's not called legacy. Definitely not. But it associate with that thing. Okay, yeah. Example is this thing that let's just say your crush or your girlfriend. I'm gonna take a kind of like example as a girlfriend. Okay, yeah. So your girlfriend now you kind of like a married. Okay, yeah. You've been dating for almost like a 3 year. Now you married, and after you married almost like a 5 year. And basically is this thing that he because of she's with you, you kind of like improve a lot in every possible way. She try to understand what she try to kind of like make you feel that what is actually wrong in you and how do you supposed to fix this thing. She kind of like supports me in every possible scenario, and because of her I kind of like achieve a lot of success in my life. But something happened, my wife got cancer and she died. And when she died, she kind of like leave a particular legacy, a legacy that a kind of like somebody like my wife as well as kind of like a only mother of somebody, or kind of like a somebody is this thing that key I don't know, something that hold something value that we just like a it kind of like a only missing, but it's a very like in a respected way. I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing. Yeah, like basically is this thing that key let's just say Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, yeah. what does kind of like somebody, do I have any kind of like somebody, Leonardo does have legacy? Yes, the way that he did in his life, in every factor regarding about inventing something or kind of like a try to figure it out, or kind of like a curiosity and things and that curiosity is kind of like a kept alive. Like basically is this thing 400 year ago, this particular person is so curious regarding about what is actually inside our body and things and and because of he was really curious and he tried to analyze this thing, that curiosity is became the legacy. Like basically is this thing, I would think that ki Leonardo was that much curious regarding about things and that. Why am I not that curious? Like basically is this thing that na ki a legacy is a kind of like a something that ki he did something a unique or kind of like a somebody such a thing that other people wanted to become like that person, or other people wanted to kind of like a, I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing. It's a kind of like a somebody is this thing na ki like the value that you hold, it kind of like a kept value bigger, like that value became kind of like a somebody bigger after you die, or after you kind of like a somebody leave, or after you things and that. I don't know, it's a very kind of like a very complex things, okay, because you cannot describe legacy, because sometimes legacy is became a kind of like a something like a very I don't know how to supposed to explain this thing. Okay, yeah, let me give you the context. Okay, yeah. So legacy are usually associated with a right person, like a person who did something right, like a Leonardo da Vinci, like a Albert Einstein, okay, yeah, Thomas Edison, Mahatma Gandhi ji, Dr. Bhimrao ji Ambedkar. These are kind of like people who kind of like did something so crazy in his life that kind of like make the other people kind of like understand them, or they will kind of like see the science in that way that, yeah, like basically take an example as Albert Einstein. What kind of like a legacy he leave behind? A science, a space time. Like basically he shows us that a kind of like a space and time is kind of, we think that ki space and time is a two different thing, but that is not. Einstein kind of like a proves us that ki space and time is a kind of like a one dimension. There is no different thing. Okay, yeah. And basically this kind of like a legacy Einstein leave behind, right? So basically because of these kind of like a stuff those people did, we kind of like look from that point of perspective, and it kind of like somebody better. Like, yeah. Now legacy, as I mentioned, legacy are usually associated only for right people, but legacy is also come from the wrong people too. Yeah, like a like basically Adolf Hitler. Yeah, like basically is this thing Adolf Hitler, you shouldn't supposed to be consider that ki Adolf Hitler, like what kind of like a legacy he have behind. Dude, that is completely wrong. He's a really fucked up guy. Yeah, I'm really really accept regarding about this thing that he, yes, like basically Thomas Hitler is a really, sorry, Adolf Hitler is a really fucked up guy and things and that, yes. But another thing is that na ki I like his style, I like his persona, I like his kind of like a way that he kind of like a speeches, the way that he communicate, the way that he push the people to its boundary to kind of like a win the war and kind of like a take the entire world and things and that. No one have that kind of like a power, and Hitler does. He has that kind of like power. So I just feel like that, yes, like basically is this sometime na wrong person kind of like a teaches so many things. Like basically is this thing na ki I don't know, I'm kind of like actually watching right now kind of like a World War series regarding about how is actually happen and things and that. In military point of perspective, World War II and kind of like a German way of kind of like a German way of how what is actually word, like warfare. Okay, the way that they kind of like fight the war, like a warfare, the warfare technique is a kind of like so unique that it just like a maze, like the blitzkrieg technique. Okay, like a lightning fast warfare, really good, really great. Like basically is this thing na ki, let me tell you one thing, I'm gonna kind of like a little bit kind of like try to tell you regarding about the World War II. Okay, right now I'm kind of like simply listening those kind of like the context a lot. So okay, yeah. So in today's world we are kind of like using kind of like assembly, army. Okay, yeah, army, marine. Okay, yeah, or maybe infantry. It's like I'm not really associated with the exact word. Like these are kind of like a military word, infantry or cavalry or whatever it is. I'm trying to explain as simple as possible as you can. Okay, yeah. So let's just say you have to fight with 10 people. So how do you supposed to fight? Okay, yeah. So basically, see, if you have to fight with the 10 people, obviously you need a kind of like a 10 people, right? So that we would kind of like balance, and then we'll kind of fight. If you wanted to win, then we were supposed to add even more number. Like basically, this team has a 10 people, I would have 12 people. So if I have 12 people, then probably we should supposed to be win, right? No, that is not. Okay, yeah. Like basically, this thing in a modern warfare, in actually not modern, a warfare technique, you have to understand the technicality. How do you supposed to fight? Okay, yeah. Fight means what? Like I'm not kind of like a teaching you choreography regarding about how do you supposed to fight. No, it's important that na ki how do you supposed to fight with a kind of like a multiple chances do I have, or whatever the kind of like a scenario that you have, utilize that scenario and things and that and that. Now basically is this thing, if you are kind of like a 10 people are fighting, it's very common, very normal number, and it doesn't really require that much technique to do this thing, nothing really at all. But when you are kind of like a have almost like a hundreds and millions of people in front of you, then probably you need a technique. You cannot able to kind of like a march thousands of people and they are kind of like a fight head on. No, it's not gonna possible. Okay, if it do it, if such thing will gonna happen, it kind of like a create a chaos and things like that. So we need to understand a proper kind of like a warfare technique to how do you supposed to utilize this thing to fight and that and that. Now basically is this thing before the World War II, or maybe I'm not really sure about that. Okay, yeah, but usually is this thing in the warfare is actually same thing happened. Like basically is this thing the two people, like a two group of people, they are kind of like a fighting head on and things and that. Sometimes they are kind of like utilizing multiple techniques, like a some group of people kind of like a went ahead, some group of people kind of like a stay back, some group of people kind of like attack from side and things and that and that. Okay, yeah, but they always kind of like a stick with the kind of like a simply fight on the ground. Okay, yeah, they were never really use any kind of like a simply weapon. Now at that time, weapon was not even exist. Like basically, what kind of like a weapon that they have? Maybe kind of like a horses, or maybe kind of like elephant, or maybe kind of like a something like a tof, probably. Yeah, but let's just say na ki in World War II, the warfare became kind of like a bit more advanced. Okay, I'm not really sure regarding about that, but the German kind of like a generals who kind of like execute the warfare and things like that, from the Adolf Hitler, they execute very different way. Like basically is this thing that when they try to march, or when they wanted to fight with the enemy, they didn't really fight directly. They utilize like basically the people who are on the ground as well as the support team on the air. They call Luftwaffe. Okay, yeah, as well as kind of like they have kind of like a support team on the sea. They call them U-boats. Okay, yeah, and they kind of like utilize this thing, the coordination between them so unique, such a thing that we kind of like somebody the another like a Britain or France, they just kind of like not really sure how they should supposed to fight with this particular warfare. And there are so many kind of like a learning techniques that I know from this World War II. Okay, the way that kind of like a German fights, and that's why the German kind of like simply thinks, no, I am not kind of like simply giving the side and kind of like telling them how good they are, but the way that they execute their fight and the way that they fight, it's kind of like simply kind of like a learn a lot. So sometimes na, yes, a bad person kind of like a leave legacy behind to kind of like a something that he how kind of like a somebody how such thing is I don't know. It's a very hard to explain regarding about that. It's a kind of like a things that na ki legacy is a kind of like a word with that we just kind of like a represent for the right people and things and that and that. But that is not. Every consequences we learn from something. Okay, yeah, like some person kind of like did something right and wrong or whatever it is. It comes with the consequences. Now that consequences kind of like a right and wrong, I'm not really sure, but it depends on that. Now that consequences kind of like leads to other people that if the consequences are right, we should supposed to be named as a legacy. If the consequences are wrong, then we shouldn't supposed to give them legacy. We should supposed to consider that key. I don't know. There is no word for that probably. So this is what it is. Okay, but we learn, we get to know regarding about that and that. Like basically, Einstein kind of like leave the legacy regarding about space and time is a kind of like a one single unit. Okay, yeah, which considered as a legacy, but kind of like simply the modern warfare in actually happened in the World War II is not considered as a kind of like a legacy. But we learn from that. We learn from kind of like a blitzkrieg technique. We learn from lot of things. Okay, still I am not really kind of like consider myself as a historian. I don't know regarding about all the histories and things and that. I'm pretty sure that the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right. Probably. Right? So it is that. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, na, ki whatever you are, what kind of like a person you are, you don't like legacy is a kind of like a word or kind of like somebody just use for the kind of like somebody a very big person, but that is not. Yeah, like basically is this thing, na, it's just I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing. Sometimes I just feel like that ki legacy word is just kind of like somebody utilize for kind of like a give them proud to the other people or kind of like a things and that. But in real society, it is not. Okay, yeah, we always learn from something. Even if something bad happened, we learn from that thing that ki, okay, this is the bad. We shouldn't supposed to do this thing. Probably, or I don't know. Whatever. The question is actually about that key, like what kind of like legacy that I leave behind. Imagine that tomorrow I would kind of like lost my channel, or maybe YouTube will kind of like a gone or something happened. Okay, yeah. So does people will gonna miss me? Probably not. Well, at the moment I don't really have that many kind of like somebody subscriber and things and that. But still, I have to kind of like simply give them that ki my content is not a kind of like somebody unique. I kind of like create the content like which is unique, yeah. Okay, like basically I execute kind of like a piece of content that like really good, but sometimes I just feel like that na ki I'm doing something really wrong because I'm using AI and kind of like AI is a kind of like a do so many things na. So I just feel like that na ki the value that I'm providing in my content is kind of like a took by AI. Like basically people don't really consider my creativity is a kind of like a things. Whatever. It just, but I think that na ki what kind of like a legacy do I want to leave behind? Probably is this thing na ki I don't really think that I should supposed to be think like that. Okay, why is that? Because of that na ki when you are kind of like a thing that ki what kind of like a simply legacy that you leave behind and things and that, then probably is this thing na ki you think about yourself as a kind of like a very bigger person. Okay, yeah. And that kind of like a creates an kind of like a something ego or something like that. I'm not really sure. Am I kind of like a completely right, completely wrong in this scenario? But this is what I feel at the moment. I'm not really sure about the future too. Okay, because when you consider that ki what kind of like something legacy do I leave behind, I think that na ki I am not that capable person, or maybe I'm not that kind of like a particular person that consider myself as a kind of like a something that I would supposed to kind of like leave kind of like some sort of legacy behind and things and that. I think that na ki there is only one thing that I could supposed to be control is that ki I just do my work. I just do my work every day, single day, and that's it. Like basically legacy and these are kind of like a things will decide by the people, na. Why should you supposed to be consider yourself that ki what kind of like a legacy that you leave behind and things and that. Probably is this thing na ki what I want is that ki we are born in here, like at least I born in here, born on this planet for do something right, and I'm gonna do something right. Okay, yeah, for me, for my people around me, and that's it. Probably. And yeah, if the people like it, that is okay. If the people like basically this thing na ki throughout my life I realized that na ki when you kind of like expect that ki what kind of like a legacy that I leave behind, that means it create the expectation that you gonna do something better. And what if that expectation will gonna not happen? Then it just fucked up a lot, na. Like basically is this thing na ki I am not consider myself as a kind of like a successful person. Yeah, I wanted to achieve my success and things and that. Yes, but it just like that na ki like just I just wanted to do my work. I just wanted to do my work. It kind of like a give me feel really good and things and that. These are kind of like a had enough for me. Legacy and kind of like a how much I kind of like a create proud feeling in some other mindset or some other people. I don't know. Probably I don't know. I just one thing gonna do is that ki the day that I have, just do it. I'm just doing it. Probably. Alright. So this is my answer regarding about this question. Okay, and thank you.